The family of Donald Trump had a different surname until 1695, and it was not Drumpf. By far not Drumpf. What was that original surname? Where did these original Trumps with a different surname come from? And which secrets did they try to hide by changing their original surname into Trump?
We are going to drain the swamp.
Yes, Donald, we are going to drain the swamp. Prepare for extramarital teenage pregnancies and Anabaptist ancestors without any surname at all. Now, first off, I want to thank you for all the great suggestions that you entered into the comments last video. Your ideas were really funny and creative, and I laughed a lot while reading them, so thank you. But unfortunately, the real original surname was not among your suggestions, even though I have to admit that one of your suggestions was surprisingly close to the original surname. How can this be? Let's find out. Let's drain that swamp. We open up the baptism registry of the year 1699. This document is available online. I will give you the link in the description. We see the name of the baptized child, Johannes Sebastian Drumpf. We see the name of the father, Philip Drumpf. Up until now, Philip Drumpf was agreed on to be the oldest male ancestor of Donald Trump. Up until now, yes, because we simply take a look into the column with the grandparents. And there we see Jakob Drumpf. What a great success! We already found an older male ancestor of the Trump family, and that is Jakob Drumpf. And right next to the name of Jakob Drumpf, we find the original surname of the Trump family. Easy to read, right? Well, let's break it down one by one. The first letter is an R, and this stands for Renatus. This Latin word means baptized. So this means that Jakob Drumpf was baptized under this surname. The last two symbols are a slash and an O. We're going to ignore these for now, but for later on, these two symbols will tell us where that family originally came from. But what does this mean? Let's find out together, but I'm going to need your help. Can you please give me an S? Give me a U. Give me an L. Give me a T. Give me a Z. Give me an E. Now give me an R. Now we're through. I ask you, what does it mean? Sulzer. Yes, the original surname that the family of Donald Trump carried until the year 1695 was Sulzer. If you happen to watch this video with a native German on your side, you will observe that this native German is going to be rolling on the floor laughing now, because in modern German, a Sulzer is a blabbermouth. Still, in old German, Sulzer did not mean blabbermouth. So what did Sulzer mean in the 1600s? Simple. The surname Sulzer can refer either to a job or to a place. If it refers to a job, then a Sulzer was either a worker in a salt mine or a butcher who produced aspic. Oh, Donald, this aspic is delicious. May I have the recipe? This might explain Donald's love for salty late-night snacks.
He's just in bed with the burger. He's in bed with the burger, with the televisions, and with the telephone.
If Donald's ancestors came from Upper Schwabia, then the surname Sulzer can even refer to a jailer, a prison guard, or a turnkey. This might explain Donald's plans to put his political opponents into prison in the course of Project 2025. Donald, please let me out. I swear, I never liked Kamala. But the surname Sulzer can also refer to a place. Then it simply means person from a town called Sulz. So where did Donald's ancestors come from? Let's take into account again the /o in the R. Sulzer /o surname. If we search the surname Sulzer, we find that there are Sulzers living in Germany in the year 2024 near Leipzig. Did Donald's ancestors originally come from Obersaxon, or were they Austrian immigrants from the Oberelsass? There is a town called Sulz in the Oberelsass. They could have also come from the Austrian territory Oberschwaben. Were Donald's ancestors really jailers, turnkeys, or prison guards? Another possibility is that Donald's ancestors were Anabaptists. Surely you have heard of the Amish. Back in the day, the Amish were located in the Oberelsass. They could also have come from the Berner Oberland. Then they were Mennonite Anabaptists. Another possibility is that they could have come from eastern Switzerland or from eastern Tyrol, the Ostschweiz or Osttirol. In this case, they were Mennonites called Hutterers, and they had the surname Sulzer because of the town Sulz, which is now located in Vorarlberg, but back in the day was located in Western Tyrol. So many opportunities, but I say we are totally overthinking this. There must be a simpler solution. Donald, what do you say?
We're going to drain the swamp.
Yes, people, it's time we finally drain that swamp. Still, let's maintain our tan and get some grapes underway.
Funny how that term caught on, isn't it? I tell everyone, I hated it. Somebody said drain the swamp. I said, oh, that's so hokey. That is so terrible. I said, all right, I'll try it. So like a month ago, I said, drain the swamp. Place went crazy. I said, whoa.
Yummy.
What's this? Then I said it again. Then I started saying it like I meant it, right? And then I said it, I started loving it. And the place loved it. It's drain the swamp.
German paradise.
It's true, drain the swamp.
In the Palatinate dialect, the word Sulzer refers to a muddy meadow. Were Donald's ancestors people from the Palatinate who lived in a muddy meadow? Well, it gets even better because the word Sulzerloch in the Palatinate dialect refers to a village called Obersülzen. Now, Sulzerloch, directly translated into English, means something like swamp hole or swamp puddle.
Drain the swamp.
The inhabitants of the village Sulzerloch refer to themselves as Sulzerfrisch, which means something like swamp hole frogs.
I didn't know the swamp was this dirty and this deep. I didn't know about the swamp creatures being as bad as they are. They're bad.
A Sulzer is thus nothing else than an inhabitant of the village Obersülzen. Obersülzen is located just 7 kilometers away from Bobenheim, where the Drumpfs were registered in the baptism of Johannes Sebastian in 1699. Alright, but why did the Drumpfs then appear so late in these church registries? Well, simple. The church registry in Obersülzen started in the year 1707. This can have various reasons. Maybe they were simply delayed with introducing the church registry in Obersülzen, or maybe the church registry was destroyed in one of the 2 major wars that rattled the Palatinate in the 1600s. The first war was the 30-year War that ended in 1648, and the second war had grave consequences for US America. Why? Because the 9-year war that started in 1688 was the first of the French and Indian Wars, which ultimately led to the American Revolution. Who would have thought? The US-American independence was ultimately caused by the French attacking the Palatinate in 1688. Finally, let's get to the extramarital teenage pregnancies and Anabaptist ancestors that I promised you in the introduction. Let's take a look at the baptism registry from 1699 again. We focus on the column with the grandparents. Normally we would expect 2 pairs of grandparents with the same surname. But what do we see? 3 grandparents have a surname and 1 grandparent doesn't have a surname at all. Sebastian TIS. What does this mean? This means Tyrol, Switzerland. You see, after the 30-year war, the population in the Palatinate was down to 20% in some villages. They really needed to replenish their population, and they really needed immigrants, every immigrant they could get. So they invited people that other countries wanted to get rid of.
They're not sending their best.
One such group of people were the Anabaptists. In Switzerland, those were called Mennonites. In Tyrol, they were called Hutterers, and in the Alsace, they were called Amish. It is very likely that Sebastian without a surname was such an Anabaptist person. He didn't have a surname because the priest most likely refused to put him in the church registry in the first place because Sebastian was an Anabaptist. Well, at the same time, we should note that the child, Johannes Sebastian, received his middle name, Sebastian, because of this Sebastian from Tyrol or Switzerland without a surname. But let's look more closely again. There are not 2 male grandparents, no, there are 3 male grandparents. Back in the day, they simply didn't have DNA tests, and they could never be sure who the father of a child really was. Apparently, the mother of Juliana must have been really promiscuous at the time she conceived Juliana. The 2 possible sexual partners include Hans-Jörg Hartmann-Fang and Sebastian from Tyrol, Switzerland, without a surname. Then we take a look at Susanna Sanz. We don't know if she was the mother of Juliana or if she was the mother of Hans Philipp Drumpf. Since there is a wife with the same surname, Drumpf, also known as Sulzer, it is most likely that Hans Philipp Drumpf also was an extramarital child of Jakob Drumpf, also known as Sulzer. But there's even more, because now we're going to take a look at the baptism of Hans Philipp Kaufmann just above. Who do we see in the column of the grandparents? Hans Philipp Drumpf. And the joke is that this grandparent, Hans Philipp Drumpf, is the same guy as the father, Philipp Drumpf, in the baptism below that. This means that Hans Philipp Drumpf became a grandparent and a parent of a baptized child within 1 month. At that point in time, Hans Philipp Drumpf was 32 years old. This means that he must have been roughly 16 years old when he became a father of Margrethe, and Margrethe must have been roughly 16 years old when she conceived Hans Philipp Kaufmann. It is obvious that the priest in charge, Haus zu Bobenheim, was not amused about all this. To put the Drumpfs into position, he simply noted their original surname, Sulzer. So how about the surname suggestion Shiggle-Groober from the last video? Does Shiggle-Groober, just like Sulzer or Sulzlocher, mean something like swamper or swampholer? Not quite. I'm not just a German native, I'm also a Bavarian native. And in the Bavarian-Austrian dialect, a Shiggle-Groober refers to a cross-eyed person living in a pit. This is different from someone living in a village called Swampole. Who is called Shiggle-Groober anyway? The grandmother of the most infamous German dictator was called Shiggle-Groober, and the respective grandfather had the surname Hiedler. A Hiedel is an old German word for an underground source of water that floods your basement from time to time. If we combine a Shiggle-Groober and a Hiedler, we arrive at a squint-eyed person who lives in a pit that gets flooded from time to time. And ultimately, this also is a swamp hole. This makes the person living in that swamp hole a swamper or a swampholer. This is then the same surname as the surname of the Drumpf family, Swampholer, Sulzer. But to be fair to Donald, we don't have any indication that any of his ancestors were cross-eyed. Now we're at the end of this video, guys. We definitely drained the swamp on this meadow, but was this everything? What do you think? What else does the Drumpf family try to hide from the public? Let me know in the comments. Yeah, that was it for today, guys. Thanks for watching. See you in my next videos. Until then, bye.